Hello, my name is Brad Vick, and this presentation is for CS7976. Today I want to share with you a little bit about creating games using HTML5 and JavaScript. So our objectives of this presentation is to give you a brief background on JavaScript. Since that's what this application is going to be used, we need to talk just a little bit about how we got to where we are today with JavaScript. Also talking about browser support for the current JavaScript or ECMAScript 6 and above. Talk some about JavaScript transpilers, the Create.js libraries, that's the tools and libraries that I'll be using to create a game for you today. And the Adobe Animate is a software tool used to create the graphics for the game. And then I'm going to walk through code on a simple counting game that I created for this presentation. So JavaScript was originally created way back in 1996. It was created for the Netscape browser. Later it was picked up by Mozilla and they used it in their Firefox browser. In 1997, ECMA, which is a international standards group, adopted JavaScript and they renamed it to ECMAScript. The ECMAScript is the language that we currently call today JavaScript. So here's a timetable of the different releases. And the biggest thing to pay attention to here is there was a big gap here where nothing really happened, and then in 2015 they released ECMAScript 6, and this added classes and modules which made the scripting language object-oriented. So browser support, ECMAScript 3, pretty much all browsers, 5 modern browsers. 6, you'll notice, is partially supported in modern browsers, so the object-oriented versioning is not fully supported. There's a link here to a table if you're interested in the different versions and who supports them. Somebody's put this together for us so you can see all the different versions of the scripting and different colors for all the different browsers, the different features of those languages that is currently supported. So the last big release, like I said, was ECMAScript 6. Many folks call it just ES6. Some people call it ES 2015. Some people call it ECMAScript 6. So here it called those different things. Again, the big improvement there was it brought in the object-oriented concepts to the language. But the problem that we have with that is that not all browsers fully support this new version. So how we get around that is the industry got together and some of these companies created transpilers, and so these transpilers will transform ES6, ES7, whatever the latest version, into older versions of ES, like ES5, which is widely accepted. One of these popular transpilers is Babel, and Babel has a website here, and you can simply, in here you can simply paste in your JavaScript and have it converted. You can also download utilities that will transpile that for you on your machines. The difference between, backing up on transpilers, it's not the difference between that and a compiler is like a compiler is going to take your code and convert it to a different code. So it'll take your high level language and convert it to a lower level language like assembly. With a transpiler, you feed in JavaScript and you get back out JavaScript on the back end. So as a web developer, if you're coding in ES6, which is what we're going to be coding in today, what's the best way to test our applications? We could transpile our code every time we make a change, but the problem with that is it becomes a problem when we're debugging, because we're debugging a version of code that we didn't create. So Google has come to our rescue on that. Google has 4 releases that they work with. The stable release, which is what everybody runs on, a beta, a dev, and at the lowest level there's something called Canary. And Canary is just a development release. It's not guaranteed to work at all, but it fully supports all the latest in the JavaScript languages. So I've got another link in here in the back to an article that talks about the different releases that Google have. So in testing this application today, that's the tool I'll be using. So Create.js is a set of libraries that help us to work with HTML5 and make creative and interactive websites using HTML5, and we'll be using that for this demo application. So there's several libraries here. The biggest one is Easel.js, so that helps us work with the canvas element, and then sound if you're dealing with audio. And then I won't say much about Animate. That's probably outside the scope of this, but Animate is just an animation software. For this particular test project, it's what I use to create the images. The cool thing about it is it has built-in ability to export straight out to HTML5 and JavaScript, which you'll see some of that as we get into the code. So now let's get into the code here on this game that is called just a counting game. Let me get that pulled up. So here you'll see the structure of the game. We've got a scripts folder with a couple of JavaScripts, a style that has a very simple, just setting a background style for the canvas, and then an HTML file. So we'll start here with the HTML file and work our way through it. So the HTML file here, again, is very simple. Just got the header information. We're linking to our style sheet. And here's the key here is we have a canvas element added to this. Named it Game Canvas width 300 by 400. And then down here we're referencing the Create.js library on their website. You can just paste this in, and that way you always have the latest release available, or you can download it locally. I just preferred to link to it here. And then we've got our graphics JavaScript and our game JavaScript. So the graphics JavaScript, we won't spend much time there because this was just auto-generated out of the Animate tool. It basically has all the JavaScript needed to create these images that we'll be working with. So we'll jump into the game. This is where all the fun stuff is. So if you start looking at this, you'll see that this is not your standard what you may be used to seeing in JavaScript, because we have these things called classes in here, and that's what we got with ES6 was the ability to have classes and object-oriented concepts. So the first class we'll talk about is the numbered box, and it represents, if you go back to our picture here of the game here, basically it puts all these little number boxes on it. The goal is to click on them in order 1, 2, 3, all the way down to 20, and they're on top of each other, and you can only click the appropriate number box. So these numbered boxes is what that class is going to represent. So in our constructor, we're passing in a game object to represent our game, and then the number that needs to display on that box, we're defaulting it to 0. And here we're setting our game and number variables here. This code here just gets a reference to our component library that we built in Animate, so we can reference those images. And then right here we're going to create a number box here. We're going to set the number to the number passed in here, and then we're going to add it to our stage so it'll show up. And then we're going to set the bounds, because we don't want the boxes to be outside the canvas. We want all edges of the boxes to be inside, so we're going to set them back 50, that way they'll be inside. And then we want to be able to handle when the user clicks on one of those boxes. So what this does is it's telling us that when we click on this box, we actually want to call this event here, this handle click, which ends up calling the click for the game object. So then we'll talk about the game object, or the game data. So this is a class that represents the information about the game. So we're going to set the number of boxes that we want to show up in our game, and then we're going to reset all the data. That's what the constructor is going to do. So in the reset data, we're going to set our current number. So this current number represents the next number that needs to be clicked. So we're going to start that off with 1. And then we also have a time element here, so we want to time and see how long it takes the user to click through all 20 boxes. So we're going to start our timer here. And then we have a function that increments the number. So when the user clicks on a number, if it's the right number, we want to increment to go to the next one. We have a function to check, is this the right number? So when the user clicks on a box, we want to return true if the number they clicked on is the current number. So if we're waiting on them to click on a 2 and they click on 2, then we'll return true. If they click on 3, we'll return a false. And then we want to check to see if they win. So we win when the current number, when they click on the last box. So when they click on the 20th box, then we're going to return that we win. And then this is going to return the total amount of time played. So it's going to set the end time, and then we're going to return the difference between the end time and the start time. So that's our game data that keeps track of all the information about the game. And then this is our game function, our game class. So this represents the actual game. So the first thing we do is get a reference to our canvas and create a new stage on that canvas. Again, we're going to get a reference to our graphics library so that we can reference those images. And then we're going to set our stage width and height to be the same as the canvas width and height. We're going to create a new game data object, and then we're going to create a ticker. So what this does is every 60 frames it's going to refresh and come back and redraw the stage for us. And then we initialize the game. We call restart game. So in restart game, get a reference to our images. We're going to reset the game data, so we're going to set our number back to 1. We're going to blank it out. We're going to delete any children that are on the stage. So if we had previously played the game and we had some boxes left, we'll get rid of those. And then we're going to add our background image. The background image is that blue polka dot image in the back. And then we're going to generate multiple boxes. So this is what's going to put our boxes, our numbered boxes, on the stage. So in that procedure, we're just looping based on the number of boxes we requested. We loop descending because we want the highest numbered boxes to be on the bottom. So we want to create our 20 before we create 19, before we create 18, and so on and so forth. And that way the lowest number is on the top. So we create us a new reference to our numbered box, and we're going to add that to the page, and we're going to put it in a random position. So we're just going to get a random number and set it there so that we just put it in a different spot, randomize it on the stage. And then when we click on a number box, this is the routine that's going to handle that. So first thing we do is check to see if it's the right number. So if it's not the right number, we do nothing. So if they click a 3 and we're looking for a 2, it just passes on. If we did click the correct number, we're going to remove that from the stage. We're going to increment the number so we know we're looking for the next number. And then we're going to check to see if we won. So if we won, we again get a reference to our graphics library. We're going to display the game over graphic, and we're going to set the message on there to you win, and then the number of seconds that it took to play the game. And so now we're going to add that game overview to our stage. And on our game overview, as you'll see, there's a button where they can click to restart. So if they click restart, then we call restart game and start a whole new game. And this is what starts it all off. So we create a new game here, which calls our constructor. So that's the code. Not a whole lot to it here. To get this thing going, it's a pretty simple game. Now we'll just do a quick demo of the game so you can see it in action here. So we've got our game up here. We've got our numbers on the boxes. So if I start clicking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we'll just keep clicking all the way through here. And then when we click our last one, we get you win, number of seconds, and then start over. And the reason why that has so many seconds is that I actually had that sitting over here waiting while I was doing the presentation. So if we started a new one, that time would be much lower than that because it was sitting idle waiting on me to get to that part. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then you won 18 seconds. So that's the end of the presentation. I've got a pull this back up, references here to the different resources that I use to pull this information together, and then my contact information is back on the first page, email address here. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to email those to me, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.